Now, back to this Paul Krugman piece. This is instructive, too. It's a good think piece. He goes on to describe some of the elements of the despair in the country, and he talks about something. I've mentioned this twice, did not get to the details of it, but there is an overabundance of death occurring in 49 to 54-year-old white people in America. Not because of disease. They're dying. They're dying more rapidly than they ever have in that demographic, and nobody can understand why. So, and that's just the headline. There are many more details, but I don't want to get into them right now because of time constraints. So Krugman references those deaths and says, so what's going on? In a recent interview, some guy I talked to suggested that middle-aged whites have lost the narrative of their lives. That is, their economic setbacks have hit hard because they expected better. Or to put it a bit differently, we're looking at people who were raised to believe in the American dream and are coping badly with its failure to come true. And he wants to write he's acknowledging that the American dream is not coming true for ever more and more people. And in the same column, he's writing about how wonderful things are. How great things are, how there's so much health care, how there's so many new jobs, and yet the American dream isn't coming true, and people are dying, and gee. And here's his conclusion. At this point, you probably expect me to offer a solution, but while universal health care, higher minimum wages, aid to education, and so on would do a lot to help Americans in trouble, I'm not sure whether they're enough to cure existential despair. Existential despair means existing despair over current day circumstance. Look at this. Here you have the leading economist of the New York Times who actually thinks we have universal health care. We don't have universal health care. We have promised universal health care. We've got sticker shock health care. We've got health care that people had no idea was going to cost this much and can't afford it. They can't afford the premiums. They sure as hell can't afford the deductibles. We've got more people without health insurance than beforehand because they can't afford it and the subsidies aren't there. The co-ops and the exchanges are beginning to fall apart. Aid to education. What do you mean? Have you taken a look at the endowments? Do you know how much the federal government spends on each Ivy League student? $54,000. The federal government is basically subsidizing the Ivy League. Everybody else is on their own. But even at that, aid to education, we're going bankrupt spending federal money on education. And social debt. We're going bankrupt on this. And he thinks it's not enough. Higher minimum wages? Is this guy really this big a fool? He really thinks these incremental, microscopic increases in the minimum wage are meaningful? So he's looking here at the Democrat agenda. Universal health care, higher minimum wages, aid to education. Why, that's utopia. Why is there anybody unhappy? Look at all the things we've done for them. Universal health care, higher minimum wages, aid to education. Have you seen the job market, Mr. Krugman? Forget your 5% unemployment. 94 million Americans not work. This is the most astounding disconnect. This man lists all the great achievements and then admits they're not enough to keep people who expected the American dream satisfied. I would hope to hell not, because this is nowhere near the American dream. This isn't even the Cuban dream, this agenda. This is not even the Chi-Com dream, for crying out loud.